Hello guys, today we investigate the real reason South Africa has been outsourcing policing to private actors. Research demonstrates that South Africa has one of the highest violent crime rates in the world. The country has more private security guards than police officers, and a multi-billion-dollar industry built around protection. Now pause for a second. This is a country where around 75 people are killed every single day. Over 27,000 murders occur annually, and yet, the fastest growing response to this crisis is not more policing, it is private security. So here's the real question. Why are millions of people paying privately for something the state is supposed to provide? Because this is not just about crime, this is about something deeper, the slow collapse of public security. When people talk about South Africa, they talk about crime, hijackings, armed robberies, and violence. And yes, crime is real, but here's the mistake most people make. They treat crime as the problem. It's not. Crime is the outcome. The real issue is state capacity, because in functioning states, crime exists, but it is controlled. Violence happens, but it is punished. Citizens feel protected, but in South Africa, something has shifted. Crime is no longer just happening, it is becoming embedded, because the system meant to contain it is weakening. The core function of any state is simple: to provide security, to maintain order, to protect life. But here's what's happening in South Africa. That responsibility is no longer exclusively held by the state, because today, there are hundreds of thousands, possibly millions, of private security personnel, more than the police and even the military combined. In fact, the private security industry employs over 2.5 million people. Now let that sink in. Millions of people, providing security outside the state. Now here's where the comparison becomes important, because private security exists everywhere. In countries like the United States or the United Kingdom, private guards protect malls, offices, and events, but they do not replace the police. They support the system, they don't become the system. In most developed countries, the state remains the primary provider of security. Police response is reliable, and private security plays a supplementary role. But in South Africa, that balance has shifted. Private security is no longer supplementary, it is foundational. And that is not normal, that is a shift in power. Drive through South Africa's major cities, and you'll see the transformation. Electric fences, armed patrol vehicles, surveillance networks, and gated communities. Security is no longer a background function, it is visible, commercialized, constant, because the system has adapted. Some evidence suggests that the private security industry in South Africa is worth around $6 billion annually. And for many citizens it works better than the state, but here's the catch. It only works if you can pay, which creates a dangerous reality in that security is no longer a right, it has become a commodity. So where is the state in all of this? The answer is uncomfortable. South Africa's police system is under pressure. On average, there is one police officer for every 400 plus citizens. Murder conviction rates are estimated at around 15%. In some analyses, only about 1 in 10 murders is solved. Now think about what that means. If crimes are not solved, if criminals are not caught, if justice is not delivered, then deterrence collapses. And when deterrence collapses, crime expands. Add to that forensic backlogs, delayed court processes, public distrust, with surveys suggesting over 80% lack confidence in police. And you get something deeper than inefficiency. You get systemic erosion. Here's how the system breaks down. Crime increases, police struggle to respond, public loses trust, citizens turn to private security, the state becomes less central, and the system weakens further. This is a self-reinforcing cycle, and once it starts, it is very difficult to reverse. Because the more people exit the public system, the less pressure there is to fix it. To fully understand this, you have to go deeper, back to the structure of society, back to apartheid. South Africa was built as a divided system, wealth in one space, poverty in another, opportunity separated by design. And that structure still exists today. Crime is not evenly distributed. It is concentrated in areas of poverty, areas of weak governance, areas with limited opportunity, which creates a country where some areas are heavily protected while others are largely exposed, not because of policy alone, but because of structure. So, what you end up with is something unusual. Not total collapse, but dual systems. On one side, you have private estates, armed protection, and rapid response. on the other, limited policing, slower response times, and greater exposure to violence. This is not just inequality of income, it is inequality of safety, and over time that becomes normalized. So is crime the problem, or is it something deeper? Here's the key insight. South Africa doesn't just have high crime. It has a shifting model of the state itself, where security is no longer fully public, protection is increasingly private, and the role of the state is shrinking in everyday life. This is not what a failed state looks like, but it is not what a fully functioning state looks like either. It is something in between, a system where security still exists, but not equally. And the real danger is not just crime. The real danger is this. When inequality in safety becomes normal, the idea of a shared society begins to disappear. And once that happens, the state itself begins to change, not through sudden collapse, but through slow, uneven erosion, where some citizens live in order and others live in chaos, where protection depends not on citizenship but on wealth. And the real danger is this, not that South Africa will fail overnight, but that over time, public safety may quietly slip away from the state until it exists almost entirely in the hands of private actors.